Hello everyone, today we are doing the lookup box from TryHackMe and we are going to start off with the nmap, but nmap takes a lot of time to run, so I have already ran it and we can see the results here. So the command we ran was nmap-f for specifying that we're going to do a fast scan, and then -on, which means output in normal format. We are going to output the results of the output of the nmap into the nmap file named nmap-fast.txt. We also supplied the -a flag for aggressive scan so that the services or the ports that are detected, we can see what services are running on those ports, and also what version or whatever we can enumerate about those services can be enumerated. So let us take a quick quick view at the results. Here we can see we have port 22 open and port 80 open, nothing special. So right off we are gonna go to our browser, paste in the IP here, and as soon as we tap that, you can see it says lookup.thm and in the here also. So we are gonna add that in our XE host file. Let's just delete those and then lookup.thm, save that, refresh the page, and we have the page here. So it's a pretty normal login page. So I'm gonna try the admin here, and it says wrong password, which means either it's a correct username, maybe. So if we try something like a username that does not exist, like this. Same goes for the password. We can see it says wrong username or password. So we have two different results here. If we type in admin here, then we get wrong password only, not the wrong username or password which we got when we supplied this username. So this is a way of enumerating usernames. We are going to do exactly that, but before that, you can always try different passwords here. The default password such as admin and then password here, which is password, which is wrong. Or you can type in admin, or you can even try SQL injection here. This is a common SQL injection payload, but that does not work either. So which means we are the only hope of enumerating usernames. But before going into that, we are going to try to brute force directories or fuzzy directories, so we can find any interesting files or folders. So we're going to use fuff for that. -u for specifying the target URL that you want to fuzz. I want to fuzz this .php. I appended .php because it is using PHP. So if you append here index.html, it returns not found. But if you enter here index.php, we get the login page, which means it is running on PHP. Next, we're going to specify -w for the word list. The word list we are going to use is this. After we have specified that, I'm going to press enter, and we can say it is running, and it already found the login page. And this login page, I believe, is the page that we get once we enter the credentials here, such as this. And you can see we get it redirected to the login page. Okay, so we will let this run and see if we find anything interesting. In the meantime, I'm gonna focus into finding the usernames or enumerating usernames with the help of that wrong username or password or wrong username error. So for that, we are going to use wfuzz. There are two ways of doing this. Either you can use burpsuit, but it is pretty slow. You can also use hydra, you can also use wfuzz. I did not find any way in puff. There is a way to do in puff, but it is pretty complicated because we have to use regex expressions. We're gonna not go into that because we already have a easier way of doing things, so why go into the complicated things? The next thing that you can do, or most people do, is create a Python script which will do the exact same thing. It will enter the username and password, and the username will be entered from a word list. And using Python, we can check if the response has wrong username, only error, which means it is a valid username. And that way we can also do via the Python script. But we're gonna keep all those things aside. We're going to do with the wfuzz because wfuzz gives us all those things to do, I believe. So wfuzz, and let's see how we can use this. -c to colorize the output, and then dash well, how do we specify the URL? We're gonna take a look at that. I guess it is -u. Yes, it is -u. So -u, and then URL goes here. So login at php because this is where our post data goes. Then we can see if we have to specify the post data, then we have to use the -d option. And inside that, you can specify Well, let me show you. So if you go into the developer tools network tab and zoom in, and let's type in your admin whatever password, we can see the post request here. And the request parameters, the request data, post data is this username, admin, password, whatever we entered. And this is not in JSON, so we don't have to specify the JSON header. But if you see the request headers, it is application www form URL encoded. So it is a URL encoded. So I'm gonna paste the post data here. We don't keep the password like anything. It does not matter. All that matters is that we have gone to first the username. Next, we have to specify the word list, of course, of usernames. So dash w for the word list, which is you can see here. Now I'm gonna type here user share list usernames. Let's see what we have in the usernames. I'm gonna use the net 10 million usernames. Let's press enter, and you're gonna see a ton of output. But I'm gonna stop right after I see something. It's taking a little bit of time. We can see it is doing something in the background. Okay, there we go. Let's stop that. So we can see it is, so there are lines, words, and characters. If you look closely, these all are the wrong usernames because we right now saw that we have admin as a valid username, and all those wrong usernames have the 10 words and 74 characters. And right down here we can see the admin here, which has 8 words and 62 characters. So we can filter the output on the basis of characters or the words. So we're gonna use the filter for words. I'm gonna say show me only the words that have 8 characters. Sorry, 8. Show me only the payloads that have 8 words in the response. I guess that's the right way of putting it. If you don't know about the SW option, before that, let's see if we found anything here. We only have the login and index as a status 200, which means we don't have anything interesting. So I'm gonna close this one. Yeah. And it is running. Yeah. So I was talking about the --SW switch. So if you type in here help, and then we're gonna grep for SW. So we can see it says show response with the specified specified code, lines, or words. So for the word, we have to use the SW, and that is what we used here, SW. And we can see we found 2 usernames till now. One is admin, second is Joe's. Okay, I know it will continue for a little bit more time. It will take a little bit more time because there are so many requests to go through. But since I've already completed this box and I know that there are no more usernames to be found, so I'm going to stop it right there. But when you're solving a CTF or any other CTF, you can let it run, let it complete. Do not stop only when you found 1 or 2 usernames. There may be more than 2 usernames, and you probably would have guessed that already. Okay, so now we have found the admin and Joe's as the valid usernames. Now we have to find the valid password. Now I'm going to replace the username here with Joe's. We are not going to go for the admin right now. You can go for the admin also. No problem with that. All right, let's go for the admin. And now let's replace the password with first. We're going to remove this switch because we don't know what's the correct response words or response lines when a valid password is found. So press enter there. Once again, it's taking a little bit of time. So in this case, when we do not know, okay, let's stop that. Yep. So here we can see these all are the wrong usernames, of course. Sorry, wrong passwords, of course, because all these have the same words and characters. So I'm gonna tell W first to filter all the payloads that have 62 characters. I'm gonna use characters because I just feel like it, or we can also use word. No problem with that. We can choose any, so that once we find something that is different, when you will find the password, you will not get the exact amount of characters in the response. So I'm going to use --f. I guess it's for characters is fh, and then 62. Okay, I guess I used the wrong one. So let's just use the help menu real quick. We can see, okay, it is HW for hiding and HH for hiding the characters. Okay, so that's the dash HH 62. And now we can see it is running. So we'll give it a few minutes and I'll get back to you once it's done. Okay, so it is still running and we have not found any valid password. And I just realized my mistake. I'm gonna cancel that. Maybe you have already cached it. I forgot to change the word list. The word list we are currently using is for the username, but we have to use the password word list. So let us see. I'm gonna use the again Zatonet 10 million 10,000 and let it run, and I'll get back to you once we find something. All right, so we just found a valid password here, which is password 123. So let's go back and try that. So admin and password 123. Press enter here. But we still do not get logged in. It says wrong username or password. That is weird. So we specify the username as admin and the password is password 123, but it still did not work. So we specify the admin and any password except the password 123, like any, still press enter. It says wrong password. But when we specify the password 123 as a password, it says wrong username or password. So there is definitely something with the password 123 password. And I realized it after some time that if you use this password for Joe's and password 123, this password actually works and we get redirected to another subdomain. And this is interesting. And this makes sense because if you use it for admin, it is validating the usernames as well, but it is also validating the password. And based on the password, if the password is correct for the correct user, it locks you in. But if the password is correct and the username is not correct, it says wrong username or password instead of saying wrong password or wrong username. So that is a bit interesting there. And that's why if we try this password with the admin, we do not get logged in, but we specify it with the Joes, we get logged in. So I'm going to stop it right there and let us continue. So password 123, and we can see we get redirected to the files.lookup.thm. Before I add this, well, let us first add this, then I'll see what I'm talking about. So sudo nano etc host. Okay, before going into this, I'm going to see what is actually happening that we are getting redirected to another subdomain. So as soon as we press login, post request is made to login to PHP as expected. We're going to look at the headers because headers are the main thing for redirecting the request. It is also done via the response page, but sometimes it is done by the header, location header also. So in the response header, so you can see the location is made to files.lookup.thm, and the cookie is also set as login status equals to success. So we can see that really quick. Login status success here. And I believe that if the login status success is not here, then we won't be able to open this page. So let us quickly verify that. I'm inside a private window right now. And if we go to files.lookup.thm, okay, we can see this page. But when you are enumerating subdomains, you don't know that you'll find there is a subdirectory. You'll just brute force these subdomains. And you can see here we get redirected back to lookup.thm. Again, file.lookup.thm. It's not the Google, of course. Okay, we're getting redirected back. Now, if I change the cookie here, let's see. Let's add another cookie. Login underscore status and success. The spelling is wrong. Okay. Now, if I open file.lookup.thm, it still does not work for for some reason. And I believe that is because of the domain. So if I do this dot lookup.thm, which means it will now work for file.lookup.thm also. So this cookie is now valid for this domain also. Oops, keep messing that up. And there we go. Now it works. So if you're in a real pen test and this works, this is another vulnerability because the page is only being checked on the basis of the existence of cookie. So there is no mean of the login page. If someone finds this vulnerability, he can log into this subdomain, and it does not matter if he knows the password. It doesn't matter even if the admin changes his password. The hacker will still be able to get inside because he knows what's the logic behind it. You just have to change the domain. You just have to change the cookie values, and he's inside. So that is one thing to learn there. Okay, so this is a new thing. If you take a look at the URL, you can see here it says EL Finder, and here's a info page as well. It says get info, and you can see it's a volume root or something, and there's a question mark also here. I'm going to zoom in, and with that you can see about this software. This software is EL Finder Web File Manager, and you can see the version here, which is very crucial for finding exploits. So we're going to search this version of EL Finder in the search exploit. So EL Finder, oops, 2.1.47, and we get this. Well, I normally prefer only typing the software name, because when you type in the version name also, you only get the exploits for that version. But if you want to see the complete information about the software exploits, then just type in the software name, and we can see we found only 3. Now we have 4. Okay, so we are on the 2.1.47 version. This is the PHP connector command injection vulnerability, and we also have another for PHP connector for versions less than 4.8, and ours is 4.7. So this is also a valid one for the Metasploit one, and this is also a valid one. I'm gonna not waste your time. So if you use this exploit, it will not work for some reason. It says that the system is not exploitable or not vulnerable. But you see, if you use this exploit, it works. So that is another thing to learn here, that don't learn a single exploit and don't just, it's a kind of a rabbit hole. You go down it and you can't get nothing. So when you get stuck, look back, go a step back and see what other exploits you have. And once you do that, you'll find that we have another way inside. So I'm gonna launch the Metasploit, of course, some stuff console, and because it is a Metasploit exploit, and if you Google about this CVE of this vulnerability, you'll not find any other exploit on the internet or based on Python or any other language except the Metasploit one. And the Metasploit module also gives us a pretty nice explanation of the vulnerability. Not a detailed one, but a simple overview that this function was this and that. You can check it out on the Google, of course. So I'm going to search for this exploit. I'm going to say search EL Finder 2.1.48, and we get this one. So I'm going to say use 0. I specify the ID here because I want to use this exploit. So options, and it's asking for the R host. So I'm going to say set R host files dot lookup.thm, and set the L host as TUN0 interface, which is our TryHackMe IP, and everything is set up. I'm going to run it now, and we can see it uploads the payload. I know that I don't know much about this vulnerability, but all I know is that it is related to the image uploadation, and the image that is uploaded, its file name is not sanitized when uploading the file name. So you can see it is echo command here, just shell command, and then xst utility, and then some other stuff, then .jpg. So this file name is not sanitized, and then this file name is also passed on to the other function in the PHP, I guess. I don't remember the function name, but once that is passed onto that, we get the remote code execution. And it is also related to the image rotation, of course. We have the metapreter session now. So if I type in here shell, I don't get a shell. and I'm not sure what's the reason of it. If you know, please type it down in the comments. Let's see what other things we can do with the by pressing the by tapping in the help. We can check what user we are with the get UID command. So let's do that. And we are dash data. Let's see the what directory we are in. Okay, let's see what things are in this directory. We're gonna go a directory back, and we have all these things. So at this moment, I'm thinking of like we are in this directory, and with the current meta predator session, we cannot get a shell here for some reason. We cannot execute the system commands except the ones that are defined by the meta predators, such as ls. But if you want to use nano or some other command, you just can do that. So which is why we need a. So I'm thinking that we can use the upload command in the meta predator, which means we can upload files here. So right now we are in the public HTML folder of files.lookup.thm subdomain, and we have elfinder subdirectory here, which is the directory that you can see here. It is this one. So I'm thinking if I can add my custom PHP file here, that would grant me the web shell. So let us do that. I'm going to create a simple web shell here. It's based on PHP, and then system function $_get. I guess that is it. We're gonna put that in our rc.php file. So get rc.php, we can see our payload is ready. With the get parameter cmd, we can execute any system command. I'm gonna upload this file here. So upload rc.php, and it does get uploaded, and we can see here it does exist. So if I go here now and type in rc.php $cmd equals to id, we should get the id, but for some reason we do not. We have our rc.php, but not inside the elfinder folder, but alongside with the elfinder folder, which means it is in the root directory of this server. If you press enter here, we can see it exists here. Now I'm going to type cmd equals to id, and that gives us our shell as www-data. Now I'm going to get a reverse shell out of it. So for that, I'm going to go to revshells.com for a basic bash reverse shell. And we can see here we have the payload already embedded when I first solved it. So this is my TryHackMe IP, and this is the port 9001. We are using the bash reverse shell. I'm going to copy it, and let's open listener on port 9001. So I'm going to base64 encode this payload. We also currently have some inbuilt characters or special characters such as plus. So we add a space here, and then looks good. So we'll paste that here. I'm going to say echo this, and then base64-d so that this payload is decoded, and then we're going to pass it on the bash so that it is executed with the bash, and we have the shell. All right, so let's check if we have Python. So which Python 3? Okay, so Python 3 is installed, which means we can get a ttbash shell. Oops, that went wrong. Let's do that again. Now let's control Z, std_echo, and then fg, and we have the shell. Okay, so export term equals to xterm so that we can clear the terminal, and that works. All right, close this one. So now I'm going to find the files that have SUID binary set. So for that, we can do find /firm-4000 and 2 greater than diagonal for specifying that any error should not be printed. So this is the overall output, and we can see out of all these things, this is the one that stands out. So it is user has been pwm, and if you run it, it says running id command to extract username and user id. So if you execute id, you can see here it says www-data, and it got the id this way. You can see it printed it, and then it says file. It tries going into the home folder of the current user to find the .passwords file, but it says it is not found. So let us see what users we have in the home folder right now. We have the think user. If you see the home folder of think user, it has a passwords file, but it is only readable by the think user. We can read it. But if we can trick this binary into believing that we are the think user, we can read the think user's password file, and maybe we can potentially escalate to think user. Right off when I saw this thing, I was thinking that let's do the path manipulation thing. So the path variable is the one that defines where a certain binary is, or where should I find the binary first. So if I execute id command, when I press enter, it searches for the id binary in the user local bin folder first. If it does not find it there, then it goes over to the local bin to find it there. And if it does not find it there, then it goes to the third one until and unless it finds it. So it keeps doing that. So I'm thinking if we modify the path variable such that we specify it that find the ID in the temp directory first and then in the other ones, then we may be able to trick it. And in the temp directory, we'll create our own ID command. Since we have to perform the path manipulation attack, I'm going to copy the output of the ID command and we are going to paste that in a text file inside the temp directory. And we'll name that file ID. So whenever this file launches, it's going to echo the output of ID command, but we're going to modify it to think user so that when this is executed, the program thinks that this is the think user. We're going to make that executable. So you can see the difference between the real ID command and our ID that we just created. Now this is a modified path variable. We have the temp directory first. So as soon as I execute pwm command, you can see we have the password file here. And as soon as I saw this thing, when I was solving the box, I saw the think user here. And I was like, okay, let's copy this password. This might be the one. And I just copied it and then tried using it, and I was inside the think user. This was a pure guess. Now if we see the commands that we can execute, we have the user file here. So now if we see the commands that we can execute as sudo, we can see we can execute look command. So if we go over to the GTF OpenSea real quick, that might give us how to exploit this to gain root privileges. With sudo look, we can read any file. So I'm gonna do the same. Sudo look and then st shadow to test whether this is working or not, and we can read the shadow file. We can try extracting the SSH keys of root user. If those exist, then we can get them, and we do indeed get the RSA key. I'm going to copy it, paste it into a new file. Let's change the permission of this file to 600, so this is the right format. And then we're going to SSH into the root user using the ID RSA key. And there we go. We have the root privilege. So that was it for the box. We'll see you next time.